hours of electricity. And again, even though this is a more efficient modern building, it has a lot of additional features like air conditioning, like increased ventilation, that's driving that additional electrical usage.
And if the, I'm so sorry, remind me
That's
of your
fine.
first name. Joe, can you make the, can you just zoom, I see the option to zoom at the bottom. Can you zoom on those numbers over there?
Mouse, yes. Yeah, that would help. There's a way to do it, it's just awkward.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So those, and again, the new building, these are estimates at this point. So the projected total usage, again, on the left, 780 to 825,000 kilowatt hours for the entire year is the projected electrical usage of the new building. The projected solar production of the system we've designed is about 482,500 kilowatt hours. So that's a good chunk of the building electrical usage. Not the entire usage, but a decent amount, and so that would leave the net usage of 297 or 342,000 kilowatt hours. So that's kind of the snapshot of the system as we designed it. Let's see, there's some specifics at the top. If anyone has questions, we can get into, but just kind of the cells, the solar cells that we designed around. The angle, so they're at kind of a 10-degree tilt from horizontal. They've been designed to handle the design wind speed of this area. That's a code item, so even in high winds, these panels are not going anywhere. And then we have a rough, and Joe, I forget where that number came from, but we have a rough opinion of potential cost of what it would be to install the solar panels as part of the school project. Noting, however, we are still waiting to get through the interconnection process with Eversource. And as part of that, there's a potential that there might be a cost from Eversource to upgrade the electrical service coming to the school to support a system like this. We don't know what that cost is. We've been pushing to get that cost, but that's something to be aware of.
They charge us for that cost?
Likely, yes. And then if you want to go down to the, yeah, now that we're zoomed in, I don't know if it's helpful for anyone to see, that's just kind of the layout. All those little rectangles are the solar panels. Those are the images. I mean, I think people know what a solar panel looks like, but that's the one on the left. And then there's a picture of the inverter, which is what makes the whole system work. And then Joe, if you want to go over to the right there, this is a simple payback analysis that we helped put together. And what it is, if you look on the left, year 0, 1 through 25, we have the next column over, kWh produced. That's the 482,500 number I mentioned earlier. So year 1, that's the estimated production. There's a degradation factor. Year over year, the panels, not in theory, it's been tested, but it's obviously going to be slightly different year to year. But 0.25% is the degradation factor year over year, so that's taken into account as far as the production. We looked through the utility bills that you have and picked the blended rate today based on the utility rate you're paying right now. So if every kWh that you produce via the solar panels would offset that 0.165 or the 16.5 cents that you would otherwise be paying. We obviously can't predict the future, but there's kind of a 2.5% escalation factor that we all use when we kind of project these things forward. Obviously that can change year to year, but just to look ahead from here, we escalate what that rate would be year over year. And then the savings per year column will tell you that's the offset of the amount of electricity that you're not paying to Eversource because of what you're producing. And then the final column on the right is the accumulated savings year over year. And I think, what is the negative 780, Joe? That would be Cromwell's share of the portion of the solar panels,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
Rounded up, yeah.
Right. So this calculation, this spreadsheet is the if these solar panels as designed were brought into the project cost, just like anything else in the project, the windows, the doors, the HVAC, everything else. If this was part of the project, this would be the, the theoretical estimated savings. Again, not including if there is an upcharge from Eversource. So the Eversource number, whatever that may be, is not in that calculation. So if there was some cost that the town would have to bear from Eversource, that would obviously move the payback down a little bit. And that's what that yellow bar is in this calculation with these numbers. Year 9 is when the system is essentially paid for itself and would continue to run for another 10, 15, 20 years beyond that.
That was gonna be my question. What's the life expectancy of the panels? Yeah.
Yeah, so the life expectancy of the panels is, 25, 30 years plus. I mean, there's a lot of old panels still working out there. They do continue to degrade over time, but, you can figure at least 25 to 30 years is their useful life expectancy that you can count on. The inverters, which make them work, their life expectancy is anywhere from 15 to 20 years. Those will need to be replaced at some point, but that doesn't disrupt the entire solar panel installation. Those are just isolated boxes throughout that just need to get removed and replaced at some point. Yes?
So along the same line, I would assume you have some assumption as to what Eversource would charge for these kinds of things. Not, probably within some wide spread, but can you give us a sense of what might be a typical expenditure for this kind of thing?
Sure. So there was a number that was put out there from somebody else via other discussions. It was $400,000, did I see? And I don't know where that number came from, but yes, 480.
Okay.
So that was a number put out by Connecticut Green Bank. We've tried to inquire where that number came from. We weren't able to find out where, and again, we've been trying to get in touch with Eversource ourselves. Sure, yeah, please.
There's a lot of caveats to that number. One being that we don't know if they understood that we currently have a solar system on the current school that is hooked up to the grid. We don't know if they understood the actual delta capacity of the new school versus what they're going to be generating. So that interconnectivity is assuming, like, if you generate so much solar power that you have to send power back into the grid, is the grid capable of retaining it? But considering you looked at the numbers. Can you scroll back up to the delta?
This has been active on the grid. I mean, your current panels, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
they didn't take
know
that into
you're
consideration.
part of the program.
There's a lot of things they haven't taken into consideration. That number is based off of, you're going to add 780,000 kilowatts to the grid. That's what that number is based off of.
Right.
But that's not what we're saying. We're saying that delta's gonna be not 482,000. We're saying we're not gonna send anything back to the grid because we're gonna use every last bit of it to run the school. So
because
we're expecting
we can use it all.
We're going to use it all because the load is almost double it. So the expectation is whatever that fee is going to be nominal. It's not going to be that $500,000.
Will we have an answer from Eversource before this goes to vote?
We don't know. So Eversource there's a form that has to be filled out, and Eversource, there's inconsistencies in the form. They reference residential versus school, all this stuff. We have been contacting Eversource. The communication back has been slower than expected, but as soon as we get the answers we're looking for, that form is going to be submitted, and it's up to Eversource as how long they're going to take to process the analysis. It could be a week, it could be a month, we don't know.
The analysis is it's called the interconnect application, and the interconnect application has all the parts and pieces of what the system is, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to connect, and then they do their internal analysis and engineering and say, okay, we're going to approve this interconnect application, but the approval is conditional potentially on this upgrade that they say they may need or may not, and that upgrade would carry a potential cost or may not, and that's what we're trying to, as much as we try, we can't get an answer out of them until they do their formal process to get that interconnect application to the point where it's formalized, it's engineered, it's approved, and then sent back to us. So we've been pushing as hard as we can on our side, and as you mentioned, there's an inconsistency on the form. So we had filled out this form and sent it in, and then the inconsistency was discovered, and we're trying to go through that with them.
So with a range of potential exposure, somewhere in the 400s is the estimate that the Connecticut Green that may not take into account the existing system. With
Right.
that factored in, when is the break-even point with have you so that would be something around year 15? If it's an additional 400,000?
Somewhere around there, yeah, if you look at that.
Year
no,
13,
yeah,
year
we're-
14?
Right, we're skipping years, we go from 9 to 10, and then 15, 20, 25. So yeah, sometime between year 11, 12, or 13.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it for the purposes of putting it on the record. The interconnectivity, 400,000 and change, is not refundable by the state. That is a cost that the town would have to bear in its entirety. Right, yes.
As far as I know, yes.
And is the interconnectivity amount, is that coming out of the reserves of the building committee? Yes, good. I just want to get those parts on the record. So if we choose to go forward with this project, we have an estimated cost of 1,552,676, but that is not out to bid yet because we haven't done final design on it yet. So can you talk through if this gets, because some people have asked me, if this gets approved, is that the final number or what has to happen next? So what would you do if this were to be approved on May 6th?
So the 1.5 million is the estimate.
Yep.
And does not,
Estimator, and it was vetted through and worked through Newfield Construction.
right, so Newfield, the whole estimate was vetted out, so we know it's be somewhere in that on or under 1.552. Does not include the interconnectivity cost. The cost would come out of our construction bid savings, which is currently around $4 million, so there's no added cost to the overall project. So if we get the referendum approval, then Joe, I don't know if you want to provide the exact next steps after that. We have to go to the state to get their approval, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So if it passes referendum and we go through the interconnect application, see what grid updates need to be made, we would finalize our design, drawings, specifications, the project manual, bid documents. We take that to the state, go through the same review process that we went through with the building, and then they would give us permission to go out to bid, and we would bid the project through Newfield Construction, similar to how we did the building.
So one of our counselors has to leave a little early, so I want to give him the floor to be able to ask any questions that he may have. Brian, go ahead.
So of that 1.5, it's not including the, let's say, we'll call it 4, whatever, if they have to do an upgrade. The state is reimbursing us 7 and change?
Correct, yes.
So all in total, we're looking at 11 and change? If
1 point,
everything
yeah.
pans out the way, in worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, 11 and change.
Right, so, I mean, it would be
Well,
bid, so
1,100,000.
that's the 1.5 is a estimate, so it could come in higher, it could come in lower. So it's a bid project.
Right.
And I would say, also don't focus on the overall savings as well, where even if you took that 400,000, a year 25, this town would have saved $1.4 million in electricity costs over the course of the 25 years. Right, okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Town Manager.
Two questions. So, is part of the problem with Eversource, is their grid able to handle this?
Yeah, the grid itself is able to handle this. The issue comes with, and to get a little more in the weeds on it, the numbers for KWH, that's like the total accumulated kilowatt hours that are either used or produced. Then there's peak. So the school, when it's fully occupied in the summer, air conditioning's on, everything else, it's going to draw a peak amount of power. It's also going to be producing a certain amount of power. But there may be times when the school isn't really drawing a lot of electricity, nobody's there, but it's a bright sunny day and the solar panels are producing a lot of power. The solar panels, again, if the power is not being used in the school, and again, there might not be that many days that happens, but it still could happen. Right, potentially.
School, central admin's still open during
Right.
the summer. And
I mean,
there's
but
summer school and summer campuses.
Right.
There would be much a reduction in power consumption between school year and the summer, because
And so there could be a time, at least this is in Eversource's mind, that the solar panels are putting a lot of power out on the grid, and there's some, either a transformer or a line on a wire that needs to be upsized. Again, the grid as a whole will be able to support it, no problem, but there could be an isolated, and again, to the point about the school is getting an upgraded electrical service as it is. As far as we can tell, that should be sufficient, but if they feel differently and they do an engineering analysis, they may find, one run of wire or a transformer or something. It could be even further upstream, because the power is going to kind of go wherever it's needed. So that would be that's the unknown that we're dealing with right now.
So let's say everything comes together and, system's up and running. How much would the electrical bill be for the school besides what's being generated? What do you need for electricity for the school?
It would be the delta. So that was back up. Yeah, you want to pull it back up?
Be like at 250,000 times whatever the rate is, to whatever that range is. The 297 to 342.
So you think we're gonna, to run this school, even with the panels,
Yeah,
is gonna be close to 300,000?
it'll be double what you're paying today.
No, do you understand what I'm saying? With the panels working,
With the panels working.
you're still paying $300,000 a year for electricity?
The net difference is 300,000 kilowatts. So whatever that is times the rate. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Only because it's in the Board of Ed, budget, so, WIS, as a point of comparison, WIS is 237, let's call it 230 budgeted amount, and that's on about a 1 million kilowatt draw, so WIS doesn't have panels. So if you say, okay, that's a good baseline, 230, and then we're getting, 80,000 back, so I would say more like the net is like $150,000
So
a year.
$150,000 a year
That would be.
with the
That would seem to be a
panels.
prudent estimate, yeah, with the
And,
panels, yeah.
and without the panels, it would be whatever the,
300,000.
Call it the, 230, I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
I'm
it'd be
just
double- it'd be-
baselining off of WIS, because WIS is similar size,
Yep.
draw, looks like, yeah.
Great, thank you, Matt.
But you have to admit also that during the summer, with no one in the building, even with the air conditioning on, it's not gonna draw as much as if there was air conditioning on and students in the building. So we recognize that at least, right?
Very minimal difference.
It can't be minimal. If you're not opening doors and having bodies in the building,
I mean, this is the WIS cost for the full 12 months.
July and August are the two hottest months of the year. That's the most draw you have on your air conditioning.
Claudio, do you want to just come over here?
I can speak on it.
That's okay. Live stream.
I'm Claudio Bazzano. I'm Director of Operations for the Cromwell Public Schools, for those I haven't met. As far as the draw, it's predicated on temperature. When you look at the historical, we check the temperature. When we're comparing this year to last year, what we spend on electricity, the first thing we look at, if we see a difference, is what was the temperature during that month. So it doesn't matter whether it's summer or winter, it's still based on temperature. On both ends, the colder it is, we have an increased use in gas. The hotter it is, we have an increased use in electricity. Even if there's no kids in the building, the only difference that happens is maybe some reduction in light, because the classrooms are not lit up. But there's people working in the building, and everything is still running. It's not like the building is closed and everybody's home. We turn off the lights, and we take the air conditioner, we turn it up to 80, because we figure nobody's working there.
Like when I go on vacation and I
Yes,
turn the AC
exactly.
off, okay, I gotcha. Any other questions from the council? Or anything else that the project team wants to point out or discuss? And then we'll
Yeah,
open it
I've
up
got
for
one.
more questions.
I've got one.
Go ahead, Brian.
I don't know, I'm just, I'm crunching numbers, and so we're gonna produce 482,500 kilowatts with this system, which leaves us a net of 342,500. At 16.5 cents per kilowatt hour, that's only 56,512. That's what our electric bill will be for the year. Then am I doing the math wrong?
Because there's all
So-
the additional charges
Right,
included
that's-
in the bill, that's not
That's-
predicated on kilowatts.
That is just the blended rate. On top of that, you have things like other rates and charges that are not based off usage. It's just like flat rates that, so there's more to the electricity bill than just.
That's just the
usage.
kilowatt hour,
That's just
that's
the
just the
kilowatt.
kilowatt hour expense.
You're right.
The actual cost is somewhere between 30 to 38 cents per kilowatt.
Kilowatt, if you did the math, yeah.
Okay.
We've had a major increase in all the extra charges recently.
Don't I know?
All the extra charges we play,
Volunteers at home.
yeah,
Don't I
That's
know?
why I say it's between 30 to 38.
yeah.
Calculation on adding 1.5 to our bond over 30 years. You gotta keep in mind, we don't know the rate, we don't know our coupon, we don't know any of the structure. But, he did a rough estimate, and based on 1.5, after 30 years with principal and interest over 30 years, it would cost us $2.7 million for that 1.5.
Thank you. I think that's the answer to Al's question that he was looking for, more or less, so.
And one other thing to
Hold on one
that.
second. Yep, and then, yeah. Go ahead.
One other thing to add to that, if it's not part of this project, say you make it a project in 5 years, there's gonna be 5 years of escalation on the construction costs.
And I would also imagine
that are
that
built into the estimate of 1.5.
the energy costs would be double what they currently are, so you'd have to factor in that over the course of the same 20 years of the bond, or whatever is it a 30-year bond or a 20-year bond? 30. Over the course of the 30-year bond, if you, let's just say $150,000 extra dollars a year on energy costs, you know, you're paying the cost one way or the other, it seems like, or is that not the case?
Oh, my first question, hold that thought. If it was, how much does that 780,000 equate to? Because eventually that's what you're really gonna be paying back, right? You may bond the full amount, but then you're gonna be giving back, you're gonna reduce that bond debt.
So, and again, it goes to when we do the cash flow, when we go to bond, we
Right.
decide the bonding amount, so
I just think we need to be careful with saying that's like over $2 million because,
I just based it on.
sure, with the full amount, right? We don't know what the 780 would, like it could be, even if it's like that 1.5, then it's an even draw for the 25 years, but the panels could extend beyond that, so you have another 5 years of savings, yada, yada. The other thing to keep in mind too is if we don't have solar panels, you're paying for electricity.
Yep,
And the variability of electricity costs in the state is really drastic. For all we know, it could double, triple in the next 5 years because Eversource is its own machine. So it is a risk, a high risk for the town to assume that the rates are not going to increase more than that 2.5%. If you look at historically in the last like 5 years, it's drastically more than that 2.5%. And there's nothing in the works today that would suggest that that number will come down.
Great. And just as a statistic, generation rates have risen 59% between 2013 and 2023. So that's what Google just told me when I looked up our rates. So, you know, something to think about with a cost escalation with energy costs. Al, other questions?
Please, thank you. Sharon, when the new school is completed, how much is our mill rate gonna change? Or is this gonna be guesstimation?
It's gonna be guesstimation. Until, so me and the bond advisor have talked until we get to, we start going out to bond in August. And I will work with the project manager to get an estimate of the cash flow and where we are and what we've been reimbursed from by the state. And then we will decide on how much we are going out to bond for. So I can't even give you the amount right now, what we're going out to bond for. But when we did the whole project, the original estimate, you always have to put in the full appropriation, which we did, and that was it 1.6 mils in the first year, the first full year. Yeah, so you keep in mind, we're bonding in the fall, so that the first year will not be a full year.
So, in short, we have no clue what the bonding is gonna be, and we're expected to vote on certain things, not knowing exactly what it's gonna cost us, correct?
We already approved the cost of the project.
The
Right.
project,
Changing it.
the project, I understand that's 270, or is it 72, what, down to like 48, 49, right?
Right, so,
Yeah.
I mean, just assume we're gonna, like I said, assume we're gonna bond at 72.6, because that's what you got approved for.
Mm-hmm. Less what the state's
Right,
giving us.
which is 49.64.
So as it stands right now, then,
And the state has been pretty receptive about their reimbursement. 11 million we've received from the state already.
so I think the question is,
Closer, Mr. Waters, I can get you estimates, as we go along. And I understand your question.
well, I appreciate that, because, in other words, I'm gonna speak on behalf of the seniors that have a fixed income. No offense what you folks are doing, all right? I commend you for taking your time to do it, but 36% of the town's residents are seniors on fixed incomes, just about. Please take and consider that. That's one of the things that got me going.
So, and remember, just to clarify, we as a council have voted to put it out to referendum, and we are technically in something called the quiet period, so in our official capacities, we can't advocate for or against the project. We're just asking questions on behalf of the public, and then the public's here as well, about the project and the impact. So just be careful with when we're saying on behalf of, or, when we're in these seats, obviously, we're elected by the entire town, but technically, now that we've passed it to referendum, we can't have public, in our official capacities, we can't take official positions as to support or not support the project. That is up to the voters to decide whether or not to support the project. So just, for all of us, just be careful with, we're in our official capacities, what we say and how we say and how we're representing. But your point's well taken. Your questions are about the fiscal impact, and they're very well taken.
And I'd like to add too, James, that, when we talk about what flavor of solar panels we put on the building, that is still, we can still discuss that, right? If the finances don't work out, that buying it straight out is long-term in the best financial interest of the town, and doing a lease is better or something else, we can still have that discussion. The referendum is only allowing us to have those conversations by expanding the scope of the project to its original intent. And when I say original intent, the school has been designed to include solar panels. It was always in the plan to include solar panels. The reason that it wasn't in the original budget is because originally the state had not looked at reimbursement for solar panels over the course of this project timeline. Their stance changed, and they said, if you put solar panels on, now they're reimbursable. That kind of changed the discussion that we had. And that's why we're having this question on the ballot now is, do we want to expand the scope to officially include those solar panels as part of the project? So the path into how we put those solar panels onto the project can still be discussed. It's not set in stone. So we will continue doing the numbers. We're going to figure out the numbers from Eversource. We're not going to make a decision. So if Eversource comes back, for example, and says, oh, interconnectivity is going to cost you $1.5 million, oh, we're not doing that, right?
Yep.
So it's allowing us to have the conversations, allowing us to even look into it, to spend funds to go and do the analyses that we need to do. Right now, because it's not part of the scope, we can't do anything. Our hands are tied.
Yep.
So this is purely just allowing us to even start that conversation.
Any questions from Jack?
No question.
Any questions from Ann? No. Anything from the town manager? Okay. We have about 15 minutes left, and so we'll now take, I'll have Claudio give any comments that he would like to give, and then we'll recognize any members of the public that are here, which can be any member of the public can then make comments.
Thank you. I just want to clear up some information that we've heard here today and put it in perspective. this will answer to some of Mr. Waters' questions. We've heard that the solar panel system, the PV system, is $1.5 million estimated. We've heard that there may be a $400 charge for the interconnectivity with Eversource. We've heard that if we bond $1.5 million over 30 years, we would be paying $2.7 million. All right, so let's get the real numbers. We've heard that the state is very good at reimbursing. State is reimbursing roughly 50% of the cost. So, in reality, the PV panel is actually going to cost $750,000 with a $400,000 surcharge. That's 1.1 million, not 1.5 million. That's 30% less than $1.5 million. If it's 2.7 million over 30 years and you take out 30%, that comes out to 2 million over 30 years. Right now, the electricity, if you don't put a PV panel, is going to cost the town, because the town will have to fund the Board of Ed to pay for the electricity, $150,000 a year. If you do the math over 30 years, that's $4.5 million. You have the opportunity right now to invest in a solar panel and cost the town $2 million over 30 years, or not do the panels and cost the town $4.5 million over 30 years. This is what's in front of us all. There is a saving to solar panels. It's common knowledge that if you put a solar panel system on your building, you're going to save money. Everybody, why would people be putting solar panels on their buildings and their houses if it doesn't save money? We can twist this any way you want, but that's the final numbers. You can either pay now, or you can pay a little bit at a time and pay more. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll welcome members of the public now for any questions, and if members of the public have questions for the committee, please direct them to me as the mayor, and then I will ask them to answer. We'll start with Alice, and then we'll do you, Sean. Please just state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Alice Kelly, 47 Willowbrook Road. First, I would say is that I am in favor of doing the extended bond for solar panels. The reason being is that this is a good way of doing things correctly. My question tonight, though, is I see that we've had the architects come. There must be a cost for what they've done so far on the solar panels. Where is this money coming to pay their purchase order? If it is coming, it cannot be being paid for by the school building committee, because that addition to the extended has not been granted by the townspeople nor the state. So I would like to know where this money must be coming out of the contingency then. And I don't even know if they lawfully can be asking them to do this type of investigation when it is not allowed at the present time in the bond. And I really have problems with that.
Yeah, I'll ask the chairwoman to address that, because her and I we've had this conversation.
And,
so.
you know, and this was brought up long before they had to go out. I brought it up at many meetings. Also, I do have a concern that all of the invoices in on this school project? So that do we really have 1.5 million in the contingency or 2.5 million in the contingency? I don't know about this other little pot that supposedly this bid that went out with Newfield came in under, what, about $3 million or $2 million. So that's unexpended money. I mean, these are
the two. Let me just say back the two questions for the chairwoman. Mm-hmm. Question number one is, how has the engineers and the project team been paid so far for this work? Isn't this work already? The concern is this work outside of the scope already? And then the second question is, are we up to date with all of the invoices that we have, that the $4 million fund balance is something that or bid savings is something that we are sure that we actually have? And then as a third question, you didn't ask this, but you said contingency. Can you, Madam Chair, explain the difference between the contingency and the fund balance? Thank you.
Also, because you just brought it up and just said it is outside of the scope. Anything to do with solar panels is outside of the scope. It's not a question if or not. It is outside of the scope. And therefore, the only people that could have paid for this would have been through the town, to the council, that they would have put ahead and said, yes, we will go out and do this, and then see if you could do legally a payback from the project. Thank you.
I'll have the chairwoman address it.
So the original intent of the project, and I believe it's in the ed specs, and I'll go double check, but it was definitely discussed with our town council meetings, with planning and zoning and everyone, was that this building was gonna be solar panel ready. What that meant was that when they designed the roof, when they designed the structural loads, it was going to be designed in such a way that it would support a future solar panel array. So the work that our engineers and our architect have done to date includes designing the roof to be able to hold a solar panel array and all the equipment that goes along with it. That is all the work they've done to this point, aside from getting an estimate, which is nominal, getting an estimate from their contractors as to how much would it cost to put solar panels. And that is part of due process when we talk about, if we'd have to do a change order or anything, we always go out for quotes. We always say, how much is it gonna cost before we go off and agree to do it? So that's part of normal project management. So it is not out of scope to have designed the roof to include the solar panels, because that was always part of the project from day one, was to make the project solar panel ready. The reason, again, why the solar panels are not part of the project today is because our original direction with our original project management team was that the state would not reimburse the solar panels. Their position has changed over the last 3 years. Now we're having this discussion. So we have not done anything outside the scope of the project. As far as, I'm trying to think of all the questions, contingency versus bid savings.
Yep.
So the bid savings is a result of the construction costs of the building, right? So everything from foundation up. It does not include fixtures, it does not include technology, which are the two outstanding variable column budgets out there.
But, and let me just jump in real quick there. But when you say that, there are budgets within the project
Yes.
that it's not gonna come out of the 4 million.
No.
It's gonna come out of whatever the outstanding bids are.
In fact, our technology budget is, we've got our bids. There's, I think, a couple outstanding, Joe, for book technology. But right now, our estimate's like, we're gonna be saving like 50,000, somewhere around there overall between the two projects. And then, FF&E, we came under like 200,000, I think. So 200,000 under our budget. So there's actually bid savings between those two pockets.
And then what's the difference between a bid savings and a contingency?
So the contingency is kind of like your little savings pocket where things come up every single week that, we get requests for information, RFIs from the contractor, subcontractors, and they say, hey, I don't really understand didn't you really want another extra light thing here? Or there's, we had one recently saying you actually need a couple more sprinklers in the kitchen, you missed a sprinkler, okay, it was a miss, we have to go add it in. That comes out of our contingency.
Contingency is part of their budget already.
It's
Correct.
it's a
But
separate bucket.
But what I'm,
It's not the savings.
no, and that's what the distinction I was trying to draw, that the 4 million,
There's,
yeah, the
there's
4 mil-
actually 6 buckets.
Yeah.
5 buckets. There's the bid savings from construction, there's the bid savings from fixtures, bid savings from technology. There's a construction manager, they have their own contingency that's currently at like 1.3 million, which we're not touching because we don't know what's happening with old school. And then there's the owner's contingency, which is around 1 point something million right now as well. So there's different buckets of, call it savings. The contingency that we have, we don't touch it unless we absolutely have to. So we're only looking at the bid savings from the construction, which is that 4 million. That's the only bucket we're looking
If
at
I
right
may
now.
add though, since they were told, to cease, they're, to the best of our knowledge so far, we're checking some of the dates. They haven't gone forward with any work on solar panels.
No.
So there shouldn't be any work for solar panels. And even if there was, an attempt, it couldn't come out of the contingency, because that's part of the budget.
Right.
So, right now, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't signed off on anything that, is beyond the date of when they were informed to cease with regards to solar panels until the question's resolved.
Thank you.
What was the third question?
And then I think that we hit upon it. I want to allow another member of the
Okay.
public to be able to come on up and ask his questions. All yours. You get to close us out, too.
Hi, Sean Busher, 9 Ryan Court. First, I'd like to thank everybody. A lot of good information, good presentation. I guess my first question is going to installation. So the installation costs that you showed, does that include purchase price and installation, both? Okay, so that would be the full installation. All right, so based on that, if we assume that we've purchased a solution as opposed to some of the other options that you said we could look at leasing, and the system is on the building, and this town owns it at that point, who maintains it? So I guess I'm directing the questions to you. Who's going to maintain the system? So solar panels break, somebody's gonna go on a roof,
Yep.
squirrels, all those types of things, lightning.
Yep.
System needs maintenance over time. Is the town gonna have people, trained in this and certified? And if not, how much is the cost to have an outside company maintain the system?
Yep.
And then insurance, does this change our insurance for the building in any way, or increase it? So those are my
Okay.
two main questions.
So three questions. Maintenance, who's owning the maintenance of it? If we have to outsource it, have those costs been considered? And then what are the insurance impacts of this? I guess for the maintenance portion of it, I'll defer to Claudio and Tony. Is the town or the Board of Ed budget gonna be for the maintenance of the solar panels?
Board of Ed.
Okay. So we install and then the Board of Ed maintains, okay. And with regards to the maintenance fee, has there been any, I know you had the different de-escalations and things built in, have there been, in addition to that 2.5% depreciation of the generation, was there a cost estimated for yearly maintenance? Like, do they need to be up and cleaned every year? Do they need to be recalibrated every year? Or do we need to have a 30-year contract with somebody to be doing that work?
Yes, I'll take that. Again, Eric Ebron from the design team. So there is, like you said, if someone throws a rock up on the roof and it breaks a panel, I mean, things like that could cause a panel to break. But otherwise, there isn't really any like regular, like you would do a filter change on an air handling unit. There isn't regular maintenance that needs to be done on a panel or on an inverter. Those things can obviously break, like anything can break, and if they break, you replace them. But these systems are pretty static in a lot of ways. Again, they're designed to withstand the wind speed. So the ongoing regular maintenance, I would say, should be minimal, aside from anything like vandalism or something. But it's up on the roof, and it's not easy to get to. As far as keeping them clean, I mean, it snows and you get snow on the panels. You don't have to clean them off. Actually, once they're designed to take in solar energy, so once you get like a little corner that has some sun exposure, snow melts off it relatively quickly. You could have someone go up and get the snow off of them, if you really wanted to get every ounce of sunlight out of it. But we don't typically see the people rake snow off the panels.
So what you're saying is the maintenance cost would be negligible?
Yes.
Unless, and is this under a warranty or anything like that?
Yep, the panels themselves are under a warranty, and panel warranties are up to 25 years now on the panel itself. So, and that covers mainly degradation or performance beyond where it should be. If again someone throws a rock up and breaks it, it's not going to cover that. The inverters have warranties as well. Some have warranties up to 25 years as well. And again, that covers the inverter if it breaks. And then wiring and everything else, it's a relatively simple system. So I would say minimal is what the
And then
maintenance cost
the
would
last question was if anyone knows about the insurance, if these need to be insured at a certain rate.
be. I do not know that piece,
Okay.
so I will yield.
we can find out that information. And oh, the superintendent, Dr. Macri, would you like to come up to the mic? Oh, because I guess they're on the existing structure, so okay. Dr. Macri, if you want to go up to the mic and just introduce yourself and with the response. Thank you. Surprise guest.
In the audience, so good evening, everyone. Anything that is related to our buildings is insured through KERMA. So if, God forbid, something should happen, anything on our school property, we would, if inside the scope, actually, I should say, of what he just said. So someone throws a rock, it breaks, it's damaged, we would contact KERMA, and KERMA would most likely cover the cost, just like with everything else.
And you're not anticipating a huge insurance increase because of these panels?
Not at all,
Okay.
no.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the public? There is another public hearing that is going to be starting in 3 minutes for the town annual budget. So I will ask 3 times, are there any other public comments on the solar panels before the Board of Finance takes over? Okay, here, I'll ask 3 times, I said I would. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, the vote on this for the referendum will be on May 6th from 12 to 8 p.m. at the high school. All eligible voters may vote for that referendum. This presentation will be uploaded onto YouTube so folks can watch it back later. If they do have questions, they can email the building committee at cmsbuildingcommittee@gmail.com, and they can ask any questions, and I'll ask the building committee if questions are submitted. You guys are really good about updating the website. Maybe just those questions that are asked, just upload them so folks who maybe have the same question can see it's already been asked. So I need a motion to adjourn or end the public hearing at 5:58. Made by Al, seconded by Jack. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We are adjourned at 5:58. Thank you.
Just like a normal Board of Finance meeting, the crowd's packed here. People are here to have a good time. All right, you ready to go? All right, I'd like to call this public hearing for the town of Cromwell Board of Finance to order. It is 6:11. I know we don't have it on the agenda, but if we can do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right, this time I'd like to read the public hearing notice that was posted. Compliance with Article 8, Section 804 of the Cromwell Town Charter. Notice is hereby given the Board of Finance of Cromwell, Connecticut will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 3rd at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers regarding the 2025-2026 proposed budgets of the Town Council, including the debt service budget and the Board of Education. Copies of the proposed budgets are available in the office of the Town Clerk, 41 West Street, Cromwell, Connecticut, and the Town of Cromwell's website. All electors and those qualified to vote in the town meetings may attend and offer comments regarding any budget item. The Board of Finance will begin budget workshops immediately after the public hearing on April 3rd. A budget workshop will be held the following Monday, April 7th at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, with a subsequent budget workshop scheduled for Thursday, April 10th at 7 p.m. if necessary in the Town Hall Council Chambers for any unfinished 25-26 budget matters. For all the Cromwell Board of Finance, John Ireland, Chairman. So, yes.
Where was that posted?
Where was it posted?
It was posted in the Current and with the town clerk's office.
Okay. So it was not on this town website in any way, shape, or form?
No, we've never put it under the agendas, but if you are going forward, I can.
I absolutely would.
It was also in my mayor and manager news. It was also on my mayor's and, oh, there it is. Now it's definitely on. It was also on my manager, the town manager and mayor newsletter in the rare reminder, and I think my newsletters are posted on the town website as well.
That may be.
No, I'm just saying.
And that's great.
Yeah.
However, you know, as it happens, I was coming here today and I wasn't sure if we were here in our new spiffy Mondo studio or whether we were over at the library. So I was looking on the website trying to figure out where we were, and there doesn't seem to be any reference on the website to.
The agenda is posted for.
The agenda for the meeting is posted.
Right.
Right, this is not the meeting, this is the hearing. So there's no agenda for this event, and there's essentially no notice of this event. By the way, I happen to notice on the community calendar, which I assume we would keep up to date, neither the Board of town council meeting from earlier today, nor this meeting is on that calendar.
I don't know who does the community calendar.
Isn't it somebody for the town? It's on the town website.
There might have been a problem because there's a new young lady that took that position. So there might have been an overlapse in that area.
Okay, just to be clear, I know we've had numerous discussions for all of this century, I'm sure, at the legislature as to whether we need to spend money on newspapers or not, or whether we can put things on websites and so forth and so on. I'm not even sure where we are right now in terms of what's required, but I can't imagine any reason why we wouldn't have this hearing on the town website. So, yes, I would certainly request that everything this board does should be, at the very least, on the community calendar, and that any legal notice relative to the meetings of this board should be somehow findable on the town website without, stumbling across it in the mayor's discussion.
If I may, can I respond, Mr. Chair? Sure. Okay. It is also under news and announcements on the Board of Finance page as well. So if you go to news and announcements on the Board of Finance landing page, it does appear under legal notice public hearing 2025-2026 general fund budget, which I believe is identical to what the chairman read. Yeah, 6 p.m. and then continuing thereafter. So yeah, thank you. So I think the point's well taken, though. We actually had a meeting last night with department head, or not department heads, chairmen of some of the committees, and one of the items that we talked about was getting a community calendar where things can be unified and announced. And I think this is a good exemplar of, how do we, in a world in which things are dispersed in more and more little nooks and crannies, how do we cover all of our bases? So I think, and maybe I'm speaking out of school, but I think the legal requirement is the town clerk's office and the newspaper, but I think we can be more diligent to make sure it's in other places, absolutely. More notice is always a good thing, but it was on the website and it was also in the local newspaper, which, as somebody reminded me today on social media, everybody in town gets the rare reminder in Cromwell Chronicle, even if they don't want it. So
true.
But Mr. Chairman, the point is well taken. And Mr. Maley, the point is well taken. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right, for the order of events this evening, obviously we've got presentations coming from both the Board of Education, from the town. Before we kickstart with that, the mayor has asked to just speak and say a few words before we get going here. So I'm going to let the mayor address us, and then we'll get going into the presentations. And then after the presentations, we'll then have public comment.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to jump the line. I appreciate it. So James Dimitriadis, I'm here in my capacity as mayor. I wanted just to briefly address you as a body before you begin the very difficult work of deliberations over another annual budget. One of the things that I know you have been involved with, several members of your board have been involved with, is we are taking a new approach to how we do facilities investment and capital improvements in this town. Over the last year, we have worked with Claudio at the Board of Ed, with Tony from the town, and with various stakeholders from different committees to develop the beginnings of a long-range capital plan. We still have a lot of runway to build on that and a lot of work to do on that. But I'm really proud of this year. Last year we kind of wetted our feet with it, but this year we really made some significant investments into the future of our facilities in town. As everybody knows, the Gordian report from that tri-board meeting that was a little over a year ago illustrated $50 million worth of improvements that were needed to our Board of Ed buildings, and it kind of was a wake-up call, I think, for us all about the need for investment in our facilities. And if we don't invest now, the costs will only grow over time, and we want to make sure that our children have safe, and our employees have a safe place to work. But beyond that, we looked kind of globally, where do we want to move as a town and how do we want to invest in these projects? And this year I'm really proud of our capital plan. The town council considered capital items both from the Board of Education and from the town manager and the town departments, and we put together a list of items that are high priority, using safety and necessity as the guiding principles for them. You'll note that the town is also working better with the Board of Education. There's a number of these projects in which the Board of Ed is going to be providing the materials and the town is going to be providing the labor, which significantly cuts down on a number of these capital items. And I give kudos to the town manager, the superintendent, Claudio, and the town staff for coming up with those solutions to make sure that we can be doing some things in-house that otherwise would have had to go out to bid. I wanted to address two capital items for your attention. The first one is the auditorium lighting. We did approve that. That was recommended by the town manager. However, you'll note that the auditorium lighting is a 3, whereas the other items are a 1. Shortly after we had our capital last facility meeting to talk about capital expenditures, there was a incident in the high school auditorium. The lights are known to be overheating. The sprinklers went off. Now, these lights are original to the structure. I believe they date back to the 80s. And I wanted to submit to the record the letters that we received from members of the theater community. The town council had a public hearing, much like you did, on our capital expenditures, and the only people that came out to talk about items were parents and members of the theater community who were concerned that the lights were a 3 on the priority list and not a 1. The letters speak for themselves, but you see a group of really passionate students and parents that believe that this investment is necessary, especially given the age of the lights and the danger that they have. As somebody who did theater not only in Cromwell schools, I did the all-school production all 4 years while I was here. It was not a musical then, but I did the all-school production here. We're using the same lights. As somebody who did lights in college for a semi-professional theater, lights are not something you want to have blow out on you or have damage or issues with. Lights are dangerous, and you want to make sure that your system stays upgraded with it. So I'm going to submit for the record the packet that we received from our public hearing, just so that when you get to that item, your board can consider the public feedback, because I don't know if those family members and students knew to come to today's hearing. The second item I wanted to discuss was the permitting software. I've had a couple conversations with some folks on this board about the permitting software. The goal that we have is to try to digitize and modernize our services to the public. We, and Tony will be able to speak to this in more detail when we get to the town CNR items, but the permitting software, we went through CCM to get a bid as to what they go out to bid on behalf of multiple municipalities and try to get the best price. This is the CCM price that they've brought forward, and then there is that annual maintenance cost additional to it. I think it is really important that we invest in digitizing and allowing people to fill out permits and applications from their home or from their business versus having to come in during business hours or when the staff person is here. I think part of the ancillary conversation we have to have if we decide to move forward with the digital services is the fee structure, whether we want to charge higher for digital and maybe have a discount for in-person. But I think in the year 2025 of our Lord, we should be thinking about, I'm sorry, I've been reading a lot of medieval history. I just finished Edward Gibbon's Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire yesterday. So
That's in the minutes.
Make sure that's in the minutes, what the mayor does in his spare time reading. It's 2025. I think folks should be able to fill out applications and permits electronically. If the cost it is a high cost. I was kind of sticker shocked myself on that. I'm happy to continue to do research on it, but I do think it is something we need to modernize with. And if you don't get to it today, my goal is to try to research over the weekend additional options that may be available. And I'd encourage folks to take it seriously and consider it. Ultimately, it's your discretion as to what to do with it. All in all, I'm really proud of this budget. I'm really proud of the work that the town's put into it. I'm really proud of the collaboration that we've had with the Board of Ed on making these CNR investments. I think that we are investing in the next 50 years of Cromwell by making these decisions today, and I think it'll make the town a better place because of it. So I thank you all for your time with my ramble, but I also thank you all for the time that you're going to spend this evening reviewing all of the budgets. And it takes a village to make these things happen, and thank you for being part of the village and playing this very important role. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you coming out, and I'm sure it'll be done in an hour, so don't worry about it. No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, after that, we will move on to presentations from the Board of Ed and the town. From looking at our screens here, I'm going to guess that the the Board of Education will go first. If you guys wouldn't mind, just for the thousands watching at home, if you could just introduce yourselves real quick so that they get it for the record, and then please dive right in.
Sure. Okay, good evening, Chairman Ireland and Board of Finance members. I'm here this evening, Enza Macri, Superintendent of Schools, along with Mr. Butwell, our Director of Finance. I think we had all the same people here last year, so we're going to go through a presentation with you and let you know where we are at right now. I'd like to thank, of course, Mr. Butwell. This is his first year, and he's done an excellent job. There's a lot of learning to be done when you're putting together a budget for a school system, because it just looks so different than any other budget. Also, to all the administrators that are here in the room who have worked incredibly hard with us to prepare a responsible budget, and to the Board of Ed, who's so committed to making sure that we are fiscally responsible, but also making sure that we do what is right for our students. Working with Chairwoman Kelleher and the rest of the Board of Education has been a pleasure this year and always, but they truly care about all of our kids, and the growth that our students are making in some areas is tremendous, and there are other areas that we still have a lot to think about, especially with the social, emotional, and mental health piece. So with that being said, I also want to echo what the Mayor Dimitriadis said. The collaboration between the town and the Board of Education is amazing. We are getting so much done for the town, for the students, for the families, and just working collaboratively and seeing how much we are getting done and how much the town is truly saving is so wonderful. So I'm very happy to be part of this team. With that being said, we will start, and I'm not sure who has the clicker. Oh, Sharon. Oh, no, oh, you're the clicker. Okay, Sharon, thank you. Okay, so. Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'll just say go ahead. That's fine. And this is why we're here, obviously, our beautiful students. Yeah, you can scroll, I'll tell you. You can stop right there. This is our mission statement. It's been Cromwell's mission statement for a very long time. No reason to change it. It's placing students first and making sure that we always look at all of our students and what their needs are. So these are our school goals. We always create goals, and obviously a lot of our goals are based on state mandates. And these mandates are actually very good ones as far as improving reading. So K-5 reading program, as you heard about last year, we had no choice but to implement, and we are doing a wonderful job. 3-5 math program, we're beginning that implementation as well. We're just getting started and looking at materials and programs of which we feel would be the best product for our students. This is, number 4 is really important, something that I dreamed of doing when I got here, and making not just my dream a reality. Dr. McLean's, Mr. Kuckle, the team at CHS, and really students who struggle with deciding what they want to do with their lives. We are creating a pathways, a very strong pathways, which we will grow and continue to grow. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that's related to the budget later. We obviously want to continue to engage in best practices for professional development and leadership. And we are about to open our brand new STEAM-driven middle school, which we are incredibly excited about. And then I just talked about collaborating with the town, which is incredibly important. And sustaining, working on constantly sustaining programming to support the behavioral and truly the social emotional needs of our students. We want to move our district forward. We want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do for our school system, and we want to make sure that our students feel valued by the community. So the next page is, there's a little mistake on this page that I just want to draw your attention to. We have it with us, but Sharon has the PDF, and that's the one that's up. So if you look at the bottom of the page, this is the budget increase by object. Just get rid of that 4 at the bottom. It's $2,391,250. There's a couple of those on this in the PDF, so fill you in. Sure, if you look at the bottom number, total requested increase, if you just remove, the 4, that's the, yes. Yes. 2,000,003, yes. Increase, yeah. Sorry, not a $42 million increase. This went through the board, we were laughing, we're like, oh God. Okay, so, the proposed budget for the 2025-26 school year is here for you to see. And it's an increase of, $2,391,250, and it's broken down by object for you. The next page, we show you the budget increase by object in a little different of a chart. And the following page, these are our drivers, and what we mean by that is this is what costs most of the money. Our salaries, our benefits, special education costs, transportation costs, and state mandates. After we pay for all that, we have about 4% left to spend on materials and whatever else we need. So if you go to the next page, the budget summary, we gave you the last 3 years, the history, well, the last 2 years, and then what we are asking for this year. So just to, and I can talk, Mr. Butwell and I can talk a little bit about this later. A flatline budget would be a 5.62%. So when we talk about flatline budget, this is what we are talking about. We have salary increases, and that bargaining is at about $1.24 million. Benefits increase is about $287,000. Transportation increase has increased. So school field trips, athletic events, $438,000, and energy and utilities, an increase of about $185,000. So that would be, with just that right there, we would be coming in asking for a 5.62% increase. So the next page looks at the total amount by object again, and you'll see where our largest increases are. And this is looking at the entire budget. The following page is our pretty pie chart. This just makes it so much easier to understand, and it gives you a good visual of the 75% that we spend on salaries and benefits. And I just talked a little bit about that. So after purchase services, which is the next highest area, that's special education costs, homeschool, transportation, student services, property insurance, tuition, technology, purchase services. After all of that, we have about 4.1% left for supplies, and 1% for equipment. 4.5% professional technical services includes, you have asked this question in the past, so I just want to make sure I let you know, the auditor, our legal, SROs, special ed pupil services, curriculum and development. Anyone that we hire is considered a purchase service. So let's break it down. Yeah. Yeah. So this breaks it down by object. Salaries, self-explanatory, contractual increases, and just to make sure we're in the competitive market. So there's our increase there of $1,243,090. The following page, I want to make sure I explain this to you. We did not negotiate that much of an increase for certified administration. The difference this year from the following years is our Director of Finance, Mr. Butwell, is a certified administrator working under his 092. So we budget certified, non-certified staff, certified administration, non-certified administration. So we just moved the money from non-certified staff, which was higher, and traded it out and moved it up to the top. So Mr. Butwell falls into that, which then decreases our non-certified staff. So that's the difference there. And you have asked us this question in the past before, about how much we have negotiated in that, and those are the numbers there. The next page is benefits. We negotiated along with the town, a 7% medical increase. I think we started at 18%, and we got down to a 7%. So we have $286,000, about $287,000 there for health insurance and pension contribution. Moving on. The professional technical services line, this is where Effective School Solutions is. We talked a little bit about magnet school evaluations. So if we have a student that is attending a magnet school or an outplacement, we have to not only pay for tuition, but we also have to pay for their special needs services. So if they have an evaluation, occupational therapy, anything that is not included in just a regular education programming, we still have to pick up the cost. So we have an increase of about $370,772 there. The next line is property services, and this is, you'll see a decrease here, which we're actually very proud of. A lot has to do with the middle school, you know, just trying to finish out the next couple months and only fix what we have to. We actually, 2 days ago, we talked about dimmers, and I said, we do not want a dimmer. I want the cheapest broken plug you have to the electrician that works and won't start a fire, that just on and off. I don't care what color it is. So that has been a huge savings. And then ECS, as we look to make more CNR projects at CNS, the smaller decreases in the regular facilities component is there. So that's just a little bit of money there, but every penny counts. Other purchase services in 500 line. This is where we talk about special education transportation, home to school and athletic transportation, special education tuition, magnet school tuition. We also, this is where our McKinney-Vento Act comes into play, so that's for our homeless students. I'm proudly, not just for the cost savings, but I'm happy to say that last year, this time we had about 20 homeless students that we were transporting for about $177,000, and this year we have about 11, so that's a decrease of 9 students, and that's wonderful, which is costing us approximately $10,000, and we'll talk later about why we have some money left over so far as of April 3rd in our current budget. Increase in supplies. These are all of our instructional materials that I was telling you about. And then of course utilities, energy, cleaning supplies, and so forth. Those are non-instructional. An increase, this is also a mistake. So if you could look up there at the word decrease, just cross it out and write increase. It's an increase of $189,713. And the next page. This is a nice little break. You see the small increase in equipment, and then you see a decrease in dues and fees, and that is 100% pertaining to NEASC. We have to pay for the entire NEASC visit, which we just had, and that was about $13,000. So we are decreasing that because we don't need to do it again. And we have not received the actual final report, but we have passed with flying colors with one recommendation and many commendations, which I'm so excited to share with you, but it hasn't arrived officially yet. It is unheard of, and I'm incredibly proud of Mr. Kuckel and the administrative and teaching staff and everyone who works at Cromwell High, because it truly is unheard of. So I look forward to sharing that with all of you and the newspaper as soon as we get the final report. Yeah, really exciting. Okay, total cost of education year ended 2024. This is something that you had asked us just so you can see the breakdown of how we fund our school system. So we have the town appropriation, the education equalization grant, the state and federal grants, and then there's the total. So without these grants and funds, the town's appropriation would increase substantially. That is something that I'm sure you're reading in the newspaper every day. It was on the front page of the New Haven Register today. So there are grants that are definitely at risk. Our federal grants, those are all of our title grants. We are definitely worried and concerned. The governor did say today that you may have seen that we as the state of Connecticut were appropriated an extra $40 million to help with our special education increases. And now there might have to be a change in that because we're going to lose money for federal funding. So how that's going to impact us, Your guess is as good as my guess. I read and watch and listen daily, as Mr. Butwell does too, and we try not to get sick to our stomach. So the next slide, I really would like Mr. Butwell and Mrs. O'Leary to explain, because this one is, we've talked a lot about this in the past, and it has to do with special education costs. So I don't know if Sarah, if you want to, oh yeah, you guys want to go up there? Oh yeah, here you go, pass this right. Would you like me to do the honors? Sure.
Good evening, everyone. This is my
All right,
most
just do a
favorite.
quick intro yourself to start.
Hi, I'm Sarah O'Leary, the Director of Student Services. This is my favorite slide. So the three biggest budget drivers in special education are tuition, transportation, and pupil services. And we just spoke just briefly about pupil services. Dr. Macri explained those are our contracted services that we have to pay for students with disabilities. So if you look from 2019 on, this is where we started in 2019 with what we budgeted to this year. We budgeted about 3.9 million for these three areas: tuition, transportation, and pupil services. To date, we've spent about 3.7 million, and we actually have a balance. This is rough; it changes by the day, minute, sometimes, of 206,000. This is probably, if you can tell, the first year in a few years that we are in the positive so far, and this is just due to, I would say, our more accurate budgeting last year, and we did put in some extra money into tuition, understanding that we had additional services we'd have to pay for students in outplacement settings. So I think this is a positive trend, and we hope that we can continue budgeting this way moving forward.
So something that we did with brainstorming, obviously with Chairman Ireland, which was actually a great idea, and a lot of districts are starting to do it too. Usually a school budget, we start in October, and then we don't make any changes. We keep those numbers with students with special needs. We keep those numbers, and they change daily. So I'm sure you're gonna ask us about our current budget. Just so you know, from our last Board of Ed meeting to the end of the month, we had a $355,000 change in the negative. So that's how quickly it moves with special education. So what has helped us is that I go back to the Board of Education in January, and then 2 meetings in January, 2 in February if we need them, and then say, okay, from January to February, we have now outplaced, or these students have been placed in our district, or we need this much more money for services, which is what we believe is truly helping this problem that we have been seeing, and progressively worse after COVID, which everybody knows. So that has been a much safer way to budget, and I think it was promising right now. Every star has aligned this year. We're lucky. We haven't seen this in ages. So, and it's good for our kids that every star has aligned. Okay, moving forward. Thank you, Ms. O'Leary. This just breaks down our LEA. So what the town provides, and then our grant budget combined for you.
Sorry, just real quick, LEA is?
Learning education. Local education. What's the agency? Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
I was, we like
acronyms.
Acronym soup in this job, to the point we forget what it means. Okay, so the next page is our per pupil expenditure for every student, and this is for everyone in our DIRG, so our district reference group, which we are D. So I give you a list of the 24 districts that are in our district reference group, and we ranked 16 out of 24. So per student allocation is $20,142.71. About a $6,500 difference from Old Saybrook, which is in the top. So the next page is why I told everything that I just told you. Why are we at 6.25? I think it's really important for us to just quickly jump right into the fact that I talked to you a little bit about the flatline budget. We were at a 5.81 before this whole solar panel discussion started. So if the solar panels at the new middle school were going to be up and running and in effect when we open the school, which is going to be in less than 3 months, we predicted, we were given by the experts, the HVAC experts, that it would cost us approximately $110,000-ish, correct, for electricity with the solar panels. We're not going to have the solar panels, we haven't even gone to referendum yet about them. So what they told us to put in for electricity is $332,000 for that building. So we had to go back to the Board of Education and then increase it by a couple $100,000. So that went from a 5.81 to a 6.25. Otherwise, we would have been at the 5.81. The next page just lets you know, okay, before we even get to looking at what everybody needs, what all of our needs are. There are other needs as well, but it's not that we don't need it, we just don't think it's the right time to come and ask for so much more money. In pupil services, you'll see a $20,000 cut. We went in with a $20,000 cut for homelessness because we don't know what that's gonna look like in pupil services. We never know. This year was an anomaly. Same thing with special education. It was a pleasant anomaly. We could sleep at night for the last few months for once. Teaching and stipend salaries, attrition, we do have a little, if you look at our enrollment, we have a little dip in our kindergarten. So we actually are able, through attrition, to downsize class size. Now that doesn't mean that could be forever, because it does go up again eventually. But for now, we will lose a teacher through attrition, and we will not have to replace, and we'll still have really good classroom size, excellent classroom size. The other position that we have not replaced, that we lost, was our secondary math coach position. We're trying to work things a little differently with the technology coach position, which is helping in that area, and spreading the supervisor very thin, so no one's happy with me, but at this point, it's not the time either to add that position back. We may have to, because our math scores need a lot of attention, but we're not alone in the state of Connecticut with that problem. Benefits related to these positions, so we cut over $400,000 before we even came to the Board of Education to ask for what we needed, and then now here we are asking you. If you would like to know what staff we are looking to add, we are looking to add at CHS, this goes along with the pathways position. This is something that most schools have and we don't have, and we're trying to grow that pathways program, and it's really hard to do. So it's called a cooperative work education position. It has to be a certified staff member. This person will actually work with partners in the community and students, so that instead of going home to nothing, they're actually going out and getting credits for working. So this is a direct line to their occupation, if they decide they want to go to college, if they decide they don't want to, but it's a pathways program. Most districts have this position. We have not, and it's just too much for our counselors because we only have 3 of them at the high school. We also have a position that's going to save us money. So if you saw it in there, it's the credit recovery tutor. So right now we outplace our services for students who go to credit recovery. So we actually are paying for students to attend credit recovery somewhere else. We believe that we could bring these students back and we could provide credit recovery as soon as the school day ends by using this tutor, and the students will then get to at least do their credit recovery programming at their school instead of going to Hartford or wherever we end up sending them. So this is a cost savings, but that's what that position is because it's an added position, but it actually is a cost savings. We are restructuring central office with a small change there. You'll also notice that unfortunately, we could use another full-time custodian, but again, that brought us up way above a 6%, so that position was cut as well. We're just gonna keep doing our best with what we have. And then we have an HR assistant. We have one person in our HR, so we have no one to support HR, and there was no room for anyone and so at the new building there is room for an HR assistant. However, this person was going to be split in half because in the new building there's a security check too at the front that you have to buzz in and someone has to be able to answer the door and be present. So for now, it's a split position. So that'll be the security person as well as be the HR assistant as well. And that's all you're going to see for differences in the budget. So a couple things that we can just talk about a little bit as we move on is none of us know about the federal funding, so that's a what if, a big what if, and it changes every day. And again, I thank Mrs. O'Leary, the special education team, everyone, for really thinking about the needs of our special education students and working really hard to make sure that they're getting what they need. And this was a particularly good year, as I say that at April, on 6:50, April 3rd, that could change in 15 minutes, as it did in the past. So that's our presentation, and that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, Mr. Town Manager, Ms. Finance Director, how are you tonight? Would you guys mind sliding the microphone down?
Oh, no.
Thank you. And again, just introduce yourselves, just real quick for everybody.
Anthony Salvatore, Town Manager, and my clicker here, Sharon DeVoe, Director of Finance. Good evening, everyone. So before you, you have the proposed budget as approved by the Town Council. And again, the challenge of town government is to provide an improved quality of life and plan for the future. The town of Cromwell prides itself in providing quality service, public safety, and culture, and enriching programs, and we've been expanding on that recently. The town's top priority is to enhance the community while maintaining a high level of services with affordability, and that's always been our goal. I want to thank all the department heads and their staff for their dedication and commitment to our town, and they have helped raise service levels while managing costs. And then specifically, I want to thank Sharon DeVoe here, our Director of Finance, for her assistance. Here's a budget summary of where we were in 21-22, the adopted budget, 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25, which is $19,901,498, which is equating to a 5.75 increase without our capital request. The total general government budget, $23,119,246, as approved by the town council. 15.99 increase, and that's 3.91% without capital non-reoccurring, or $3,186,499 over the 24-25 budget, including capital non-reoccurring request. CNR historically funded by general fund balance. 25-26 requests for $2,407,020, and 24-25 request was $588,571. Of the $2,407,020, $1,321,813 is the town, while $1,085,207 is the Board of Education. As previously stated by the superintendent, employee wages and benefits comprise 75% of our budget. Additional highlights: increase in wages was 5.70% due to contractual obligations. And part of that, as also stated by the superintendent, is attempting to have comparable wages to the surrounding municipalities, which we have lost some of our employees to. Employee benefits, employer pension contribution, municipal employee retirement system, also known as MERS, employer contribution increased due to contractual increases in police salaries. Health insurance negotiated at 7%, and as also stated by the superintendent, was initially quoted to us at 18%. Increase in actually determined employment contribution due to salary increases and an increase in the population. She had some pictures, so we threw some in also. We centered around, a lot of our departments do a lot of extra things, and we thought this year we'd center around public safety, and specifically the police department. And you'll see here our officers that are doing various and assorted community-oriented events. But I want to point out we have a brand new K-9, Officer Dean with his K-9 cash. They completed and graduated K-9 patrol in Narcotics Academy. All our supervisors continue the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association training. We increased staffing to allow for 3 school resource officers and provide many Cromwell residents access to the Cromwell Police Department's full food pantry, which is accessible 24/7 in the lobby. And additionally, some of the things that the officers have done over the years. Skipping ahead, additional highlights in public works, vehicle maintenance. We're planning on adding in this budget a part-time salary to bring an intern in from Vinyl Technical High School. We did this a number of years ago, and it worked out very well, and we'd like to repeat it again. Parks and grounds, increase in contracted services, servicing the Board of Education irrigation. Added a seasonal position to bring the total number of seasonals to 4. As also previously mentioned, utilities. All town facilities have been metered by the water department, which increases our cost for water usages, and we maintain and repair our own streetlights. Building inspections increased due to adding permitting and licensing software, and that's what the mayor was talking about, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it in capital non-reoccurring. Donations and dues, we increased a couple of the requests, including the Historical Society and the cemetery on Hillside Road. In the senior center, we created a part-time nutrition site coordinator and added additional yoga class. Here's how the general government budget is broken down. General government, 26.32%. Boards and commissions, 32%, 0.32%. Public works, 23%. Public safety, 20.39%. Human services, 3.62%. Recreation and culture, 4.71%. And other expenses, 21.64%. The impact on the budget, you see the change from the prior years compared to this year, and the total percentage increase. Town manager's cuts in the health department, a full-time administrative assistant. Building and inspection department, additional staff person. Public works, cuts in various divisions. The assessors, a reduction and an increase for a salary raise. Still on the watch list, public works, solid waste continues to be a concern. In the state of Connecticut, it's hard to believe that in 2021 we're still shipping our solid waste out of state, and we don't have a complete solution yet, and this needs to be addressed. It's a major concern of all municipalities. Utilities and electric rates. We've added additional streetlights with some of the additional developments that we've approved. Major equipment or facility repairs due to age. Legal fees depending on status of existing and future court cases. Negotiations of collective bargaining agreements. Revenue and other taxation, state aid. The governor's proposal for state aid to Cromwell generally reflects level funding with a slight increase in education cost sharing, ECS grant. Other general fund revenue, no significant changes anticipated. The grand list did reflect a slight increase of 0.38%. Capital improvement program. The charter requires that the town council adopt a 5-year CIP every year. The charter also requires the CIP to be reviewed with operating budget. Proposed funding through general fund balance, $2,407,020 capital request approved, $3,928,581 capital items requested. I gave you the initial breakdown on both the town and the Board of Ed. Possible other sources of revenue identified for some requests: special revenue fund, general fund, and state bonding grants. Some of the items that are requested in the capital non-reoccurring, I won't go through them. We'll be doing it as part of the budget. I just want to note, though, dump trucks no longer cost $40,000 to $50,000. As you can see here, another highway truck, $290,000. Capital improvement plan. This is for the Board of Education that was approved by the town council. There's basically something for the 3 other schools other than the middle school. Capital improvement plan, the Board of Education continues with some additional work on the high school roof, thermal imaging study, protective coordination study, and the whiz exit signs changed to LED renewable. Some of the things that we've also done in the last year, We upgraded, on a state grant, Pearson Park. We turned the former Public Works Mechanics facility to create team rooms for Cromwell High School football and community events, named after Richard C. Noble, longtime resident of the town of Cromwell, heavily involved in recreation and youth football. And along with converting this building, we were able to add 64 additional accessible parking spots. This building also can be used for individuals having meetings such as the DTC or the RTC or whatever group is looking for a meeting room. We're very tight on meeting rooms, so this was a big ask. Another project we're working on as a result of a state grant is bathrooms for the Cromwell High School fields. They'll be centrally located in the middle of the complex out there between the ball field and the soccer field. And we hope to have those in within the next month or so. Lindquist Field, again, another state grant. We converted Lindquist Field from a baseball field into a softball field, and it does have, they're already up, sport lights for night games, and we're going to convert one of the WIS softball fields into a hardball field. Out here, another state grant was the sidewalks on West Street, and we realigned Allen Road to line up with Palmer Circle across the street, and that was another state grant. And these come from State Senator Lesser and Representative Carpino. Last year's budget was debt service, $3,238,994, and this year's is $2,780,684, a decrease. Debt service, legally required to make annual payments on existing bond obligations as determined at issuance. 3 bond issues outstanding from 2016, roads, facilities, equipment. 17, refunding, refinancing. We did 2008 10 series bonds, and 2019 the public works facilities. Total decrease of $458,310, 14.15%. We continue to pay down on existing debt. Decrease includes $1,500,000 in interest for short-term financing for the new middle school, a decrease from fiscal year 25 of $1,920,000. Just like the superintendent, we have a pie. It shows you where the money's going. Town government is the blue at $23,119,246, which equates to 34.7%. The Board of Education's red, $40,681,494, equates to 61.1%. And debt service is at $2,780,684, which equates to 4.2%. In summary, the budget as approved by the Town Council is $1,742,819 less than what was requested by the departments, including the capital improvement request, while maintaining programs and services that the community has come to expect. The budget provides funding to maintain and improve our infrastructure and our capital assets. Global situations definitely are having an impact. Supply chain issues, inflation have impacted the town's ability to purchase materials, supplies, and services. The town mill rate has been relatively stable over 20 years, fluctuation from 29 mills in 2004-5 and 26.67 mills in 24-25. A low of 26.16, high of 31.68, 5 revals. As always, this budget was created with every effort to maintain programs and services to the community with the intention of keeping the tax impact at a minimum. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the overview and the presentation.